5 today.
Did you see them outside?
No, but I
okay.
saw on Facebook, we talked a little bit on Facebook.
Okay.
He's probably lost.
I think he had a 10 o'clock thing, and he was going to come over now.
He's
I didn't
kind of a
have
busy
to-
guy.
Yeah, he's a little busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Where's the water?
Yeah.
Okay,
because
great.
he ended up having to schedule.
Larry, Tom, water?
That's me, thank you.
Water will be fine, Slime.
All right.
How Fergus got up early and missed
I know,
lunch too.
I know, you need to eat.
God, boy, it looks good.
Eat.
Well, I'll
So
eat
you
when everybody
feel
else
friendly
does.
about talking.
When everybody else does, I will.
You guys wanna, okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. My name's Denise Hector. I'm with MU Extension. I'm housed here in Buchanan County. I'm a county engagement specialist in ag and environment. I'm also doing sliding over into the community and economic development side too with this position. So this summer I attended a regional faculty meeting and we had an introduction to Lauren Burngraff. She's the student's professor. She's from the Trulaskey School of Business on campus. And they're piloting a program, it's my understanding, right, guys, first year? So they're your juniors, seniors, it's a third year for the program. And it's kind of an applied learning class where they came up with the idea to partner with Extension because we're out in all 114 counties and could provide real world opportunities for the students to come out and work on some sort of a business project. So we work together. There are actually, I think I have 18 students altogether. I have 3 groups, and this is one. So are there 5 of you?
23A, there's 23 which they're in Buchanan as well, in different topics.
Yes.
We're 23A, we have 6 members in our group. So
Yeah, so we've worked together, and they're working on, I've also been tasked from campus to do community needs assessment. So the university is tasking all the county engagement specialist positions to go out into the county and assess needs and then take that information back to campus. And we're looking for ways that we can connect, partner, share resources. The sky's the limit on different things. So these guys are going to lead a focus group on community needs. And they kind of tried to base it on who was coming. We didn't, it's kind of a fluid thing, so I didn't know for sure what my makeup would be, but I think they've got it figured out with some good questions.
well, we sure tried to. First off, my name's Jacob Tessman. I'm a senior at Mizzou.
My name is Mitch Story. I'm a junior marketing major at Mizzou from St. Louis.
I'm Dylan Blowski. I'm a senior business management major from Chicago.
So what we wanted to do today was kind of come here, get a diverse group of people. First, we didn't know really who we have, so once we heard the names, we were excited you guys were coming. And basically what our whole objective is here is to hear how you guys feel about your own community. We're from Columbia, Chicago, Kansas City. We don't travel up here often, so we don't really know the diversity of like your economy, different things like that. So we wanted to kind of get a basis on how you guys feel because you're the ones that live here, So we're gonna run a focus group, ask you guys some questions that we thought out, and we want to hear some of your guys' opinions and different things on that. And we want to start out first by doing a introduction, so we get to know kind of everyone, your background, like where you're from, what you did, do now, and like what brought you to Buchanan County. You didn't live here. You want to start?
Sure. Name is Tom Cobb. Born and raised in St. Joseph. Product of the Everett Elementary School, Central High School. Graduated from both. Went on to college at Washington University in St. Louis. Graduated there in 1970, so I've been here since 1970. My folks started an amusement game business in 1938. Jukeboxes, pinball machines, and what have you. And I came back in 1970, went in business with my folks. We've expanded, about 1985, we expanded into the full line vending business. We do that. We also do home billiard sales. We have about 30 employees. Our office is down on Frederick. So our business has been here, this is the 82nd year. And we've been very close with the community, obviously. I've served on numerous boards from time to time. And both my sons are employed in our business. I have 8 grandchildren live here. Daughters-in-law work for the St. Joe School District. So we're connected with the community in a lot of different ways. Obviously interested in how the community is progressing and needs to progress, and everyone has specific concrete ideas about that. And obviously we've gotten some news in the last census from our school district that enrollment has gone down, which is not always a good thing to consider. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but my canned political speech is, I'm 71 years old. Been here all my life, except for college in St. Louis. When I was in high school, grade school, we were 64,000 population. When I was in college, we were 66,000 population. I came back when I was 21 years old, and we were 70,000 population. Now I'm at the end of my career, and we're 80,000 population. So if you look at those statistics and you think, okay, we're in the geographic center of the United States, we're at the intersection of 2 interstate highways, we're on a navigable river, and we're 35 minutes north of an international airport. Why haven't we grown more? What is the impetus behind our not being able to grow? And you can look at other communities in the state, you can look at other communities in the US, and look at those same statistics and see different outcomes. And why did they have that different outcome? And why have we had our outcome? And there's various reasons for why we haven't progressed. And we have had great economic strides in the past. A lot of good companies have been here, a lot of companies have expanded. We do business, we have industrial-based clients all over the city, and a lot of them have expanded. And so that's my canned political speech about St. Joseph and our hometown. I love being here. As I said, I get to go to work every day with my wife and my sons. My grandchildren are all here, so it's a wonderful community.
Very insightful, thank you.
There's not a lot else to say. Tom's pretty well summed the whole thing up. Very well spoken, and maybe the mayor could do better. I don't know. My name is Scott Tucker. I'm a retired businessman here in St. Joseph. Family business that was here for 59 years. My brother and I sold out last year. I ran it for 42 years. Denise worked with me as my right hand for a lot of those years, last 15 or 20. And we've been in the bowling and entertainment business here in St. Joseph. Same thing as Tom, family business. Went to school at Missouri Western, went to school in Maryville, graduated from Missouri Western. I think the world of St. Joe, I decided to stay here because I thought it was a wonderful place to raise a family. And I'm just very happy with that part of it. Tom brings up very good points, and I guess that's why we're probably here. And there's not a lot else that I can think about saying about that other than I would love to see St. Joseph grow and do better, and I think groups like this gives us a chance to try to kick around ideas that might open up a door some way that might make it happen. Now, if you really want to know something about St. Joseph, the guy next to me can really tell you about it. He's the senior person in St. Joe as far as historian. Go ahead.
I'm Larry Koch. Because of my age, I have had a lot of things I could talk about. Elwood, St. Joe, back to Elwood, graduated from Elwood High School, the whole history, because I went to Central 2 years before that. Currently, I'm on the school board, and right now we are in the midst of trying to undo 80 years worth of misdirection that the previous school boards has taken us. It's a monumental task. Just to give you an example of what keeps me up nights, we have 3 high schools that people live in St. Joe realize that. 2 smaller schools, Benton and Lafayette, one larger school, Central. 2 things I can say about it. Number one, the total budget of Benton and Lafayette together is $2 million more a year than Central. But those 2 schools have fewer kids in them than Central. So we're paying more money to educate fewer kids. That's a financial problem. The academic problem is that at Central High School, we have over 21 additional courses available to the kids going to Central than we do at Lafayette or Benton. That's a travesty. We should not have allowed that to happen. It's been going on for 80 years, and this school board is out to stop it. So that's what keeps me awake nights, and that's the passion I have right now. That's my speech.
Good.
Mine's not gonna be as long. My name is Janice Ferguson. I'm Janice Wing. Born and raised here, raised our family here. Went to Blair, went to middle school Bliss, and then went to Central. That school was closed, which I kind of don't understand because they're still using the school. So that's kind of a question. It seems like on the school issue, a lot of the schools, several of the schools have been closed that it seems like could have been taken care of and kept open instead of building new schools. So that's just a little bit of an issue in micro. I worked at the family business, Wing Printing. We started that back in the 40s, I believe, and still there part-time. I'm retired, but I'm working there. I also work at Weight Watchers, a business over by Hy-Vee. See a lot of people in town. Our children are here. Denise is our oldest daughter. And we farm on the east side of town. My husband farms on his family farm, so that's where we are at this point.
My name is Norma Wayne. I did not go to school here in St. Joe. I went to Buchanan. My children have gone through grade school and high school here. And my son has graduated from Missouri Western, and he now works in Kansas City. My daughter works for Ralston Farina here in St. Joe, which she went through Hilliard's for her training and got a job there and really likes it. I retired from AAA Travel. I was a domestic counselor, which I sound glorified, but what I did is if you come in and want to take a trip from here to California, I mapped it out for you, give you step-by-step directions on how to get there and how to get back home, the places to stay, in the way of accommodations, things to see on the way and the way back. And I worked at that for 13 years and retired from it. And now I'm a domestic goddess.
All right.
I'm a homemaker.
Good job.
Not many people here that remember the triptych.
Yeah,
Right. Sure.
I made it.
Sure.
These kids
Oh.
would not
Yeah.
have any point of reference.
It's pretty wonderful at the time.
No,
He's
it's
got
a
the
pretty
maps on
handy
the
thing to
phone.
have.
There was a big changeover when they went from the triptychs to the computers.
Oh, yeah.
People didn't like the computers. Now it's totally reversed. They don't want all this paperwork out front and just tell them where to go. My name is Paul Wing. I'm obviously her husband. I was born and raised at this community. I wouldn't leave it. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but there's way overburdening more that I do like. I graduated from Central High School, which you've got a tremendous chore ahead of you, closing any school, a high school, because there are so many people that have graduated from them, and oh my gosh, Benton is closing? No, not in this lifetime. Not gonna happen. So I think you're gonna have a real challenge there making that happen. I did go to Central. I had the same discussions with people when I was a high schooler. Poor education in the North End because you went to Lafayette, and poor education because you went to Benton. You should have gone to Central and got a real good education. I didn't get a real good education. My wants and desires were not education at that time. It was to get a job. I joined the family business when I was 13 years old. I'm 74 today, and I worked in it every day up until I went to the military. Came back and did another 5-year stint of it after the military, and left seeing little future in the printing business. There's too many copiers around today, so the printing business is out. I did attend Hilliard's vocational school, and I have a real soft place for them because there are a lot of people in this town that don't go to college. Why don't they go to college? Because they're sick of sitting in a classroom. They don't want to sit there and listen to a teacher beller for hours upon end. They want to get in and get some ink under their fingernails. They want to go in and get some carpentry work. They want to get involved in doing something with their hands. That's where they shine. That's exactly where I am. Now, like I told these guys early on when we came in today, when you get ready to go into your business, start putting this money away more than you think you're going to need when it comes time to retire. I'm 74 and I'm working almost more than I want to work, doing odd jobs just to make ends meet. Because I didn't get the kind of education that I should have gotten. Education wasn't important to me. But I do think as city leaders and business head groups and what have you, you need to remember that buildings like Hilliard's, there's a huge demand for that type of a product in the marketplace here. There's kids that don't need to be going to college. I didn't need to be going to college. All I did was waste a full semester's worth of money going to college. And then Uncle Sam took me. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. And so was the ROTC program for that matter. And I hated to see him eliminate that. Now, I'll tell you why this county, this city, why this area isn't progressing. There is so much old money in this town. By that I mean old people that have money. And they're not willing to change or make any changes or alterations to what they think their money should be spent for. And they hold on to their money and they don't want to spend their money. And the changes we're trying to make to the school district, that's going to be an uphill battle all the way through. And I think you've seen that too. They don't have to agree, but that's my belief. My belief is there's too much old money in this town that people don't want to give up. I worked for Bear Animal Health when I retired. I retired to come home and take care of her, and Bear, of course, closed down. That was another nice company of several hundred people that we lost. Kansas City's now lost them again, so they've sold out their animal health. And I started in the wing printing company from the days when it was very profitable, but it certainly is not very profitable today. It's not the kind of business to have in this town. That's all I have.
My name's Whitney Landing, and I love this guy. I don't know where you found him, but I just love it. My Whitney Landing, I'm the executive director of the Community Action Partnership of Greater St. Joseph. We are a community action agency. We are an anti-poverty organization here in town. We administer services like Head Start, Early Head Start, so we talk about reading to the kids. That's one of our biggest programs. We also do utility assistance. We build houses to increase safe and affordable housing. Those types of things. So that's my job. I'm from Southeast Kansas. I'm not from here. What brought me here? Indeed.com and a job posting that said it was a suburb of Kansas City, which it is not. And I just kept driving, and then I had come too far to just not interview, and so I've been here for 6 years now. He's one of the people that got me. So 6 years now. What I've noticed, so I do have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old that is in the school district here, and a 2-year-old who obviously will be. I think you're going to hear some common themes about the school district and accessibility to jobs and the types of jobs that St. Joseph used to have. I would agree that there's a lot of old ways of doing things that have lent to some of our unwillingness to change, maybe, to the needs that we have. I think just kind of piggybacking on some of the things I've already said is that I think that there's a really big disconnect between the powers that be and the needs of the people that live here. Larry brought up a really good point about Lafayette and Benton having lower attendance or lower populations or kids at their schools, but higher costs to run those schools. But if you also look at the kids that are going there and the percentage of kids that are in poverty and all of the negative things that go along with that, you're going to see that those kids require a lot more services and resources. So that's all.
I'd like to jump back into one piece I forgot that I think is very, very important, at least to our family. You talk about the school district here. Both of our kids graduated from the school district. However, they are now raising children. And they got to the 4th grade in the public school system and decided both of their kids have pulled out of the school system and gone to the Christian school here in town. Not so much for morning prayers or saluting the flag or whatever it is that the extras that Christian school give you, but they left the public schools. That's all. I'm sorry. Thank you for allowing that.
Listen, we're just going to keep going back and forth.
Okay, I'm the mayor. All these problems will be solved before my term of office is over. Which may be sooner than I think. Well, Bill McMurray, and I was born at Sisters Hospital on October 28, 1950. I was a month early. It's the only time I've been early my whole life. And it's because my dad went to the Knights of Columbus Halloween party. My mom was 8 months pregnant with me, and she was feeling bad. I remember this is 1950. So she thought, well, I just feel kind of crummy. So she had a hot toddy and put a hot pad on her stomach and induced labor. So she calls my dad at the Knights of Columbus and says, McMurray, get home, I'm in labor. So I was born a month early because of my mother's hot toddy and hot pad. So anyway, well, I went to Mark Twain School for kindergarten. That's the only time I ever went to a public school in St. Joe. I went to Cathedral School for grades 1 through 8 and Christian Brothers, Christian School, Christian Brothers. Back in those days, the brothers had a very unique approach to discipline. If you mouthed off, they whacked you across the chops. I don't even think the brothers do that anymore, but those were the days too in the public schools. A lot of my buddies went to Lafayette. There was this guy named Mr. Hohen at Lafayette, and he'd say, okay, do you want 5 swats or do you want 5 hours? And he'd give them 5 swats if that's what they wanted. He had one of these paddles with holes drilled in it. So you know, the corporal punishment was kind of a thing in the schools back when I went through. And maybe we should have that again today. What do you think? So,
Absolutely.
I'm not so sure it would work. I am distressed when and I forgot to tell the MU guys here that I did go to the University of Kansas, bachelor's and master's degrees there. So, however, I do have about 30 or 40 graduate hours at Mizzou, so maybe I redeemed myself.
Right. It's not bad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it really alarms me. I grew up in St. Joe, and I am the mayor now. Previously, I was public administrator, which deals with a lot of people that the court appointed me as their guardian or conservator because of mental illness or substance use or dementia or a variety of problems where it wasn't believed that they could take care of themselves. So we do have poverty in St. Joseph, and in my 10 years as public administrator, I witnessed it firsthand in many places. It was during that time that I also became acquainted, more than I ever wanted to, with drug problem. There are people that self-medicate, that turn to drugs, and we certainly have, like everywhere else. I just saw in the paper the other day that Stewartsville found needles at their bus stop. Stewartsville's a little tiny town down Highway 36 from here. I mean, so it's, certainly not unique to St. Joseph. But I found a lot of people, some people who even had drug-induced dementia, sad young people. So I mean, it's the meth epidemic, probably more so than the opioids here, but at this time. But yeah, we have some serious problems there. And you know, there are all kinds of reasons, I suppose. Poverty is one of the big drivers. And when I hear that, I think, Larry, was 70% free and reduced lunch?
71% free and reduced lunch.
In the school district, 71% free and reduced lunch in the school district. I mean, my heart just skips a beat there, because we do have a lot of poverty in St. Joseph. And that, I think, probably more than anything is a difficulty that we deal with every day. I always believe in being optimistic. I believe we can be better than we are. That's why I ran for mayor, and I work at that every single day. And I think the future is bright. I mean, there are a lot of good things that are happening. One of the things you mentioned, the trades, Metropolitan Community College is now offering classes at Hilliard's. You mentioned Hilliard's for adults. And the whole idea is we have like 700 job openings in the trades, welders, machinists, and all of that. So, I mean, I was never, if somebody said if they give McMurray a hammer, he could do serious damage to his home. So, I'm not much when it comes to home repairs, but I know the trades, in St. Joe have a lot of openings, and I think MCC will help us train some people and fill some of those openings. And I also am happy that, we have some other businesses happening here. We have a new college president who's quite progressive. I think that'll be good. We have a new school superintendent. We have a lot of new ideas in St. Joseph and the persons that I've mentioned and others. And so I think the future's bright. I think St. Joseph will, at this point, we have several people on the council who are very progressive. Some would say too progressive, as a matter of fact. So this council, one of the, in fact, it was the city manager, said this council has done more things in a year and a half than the previous 2 or 3 councils have done in their entire term. Now, some would not think that everything we've done is so great, but at least we've done something. And we have a lot of serious issues, but we're approaching them head on, and we're going to work on them hard. And with everybody's help, we're all in this together. I think we'll solve some problems. So I'm optimistic for the future.
Let me make a statement about poverty. The only tool with which to fight poverty is education. We cannot buy our way out of poverty. We cannot legislate our way out of poverty. We can only educate our way out of poverty.
Well, I certainly agree with that, Larry.
Well, my name is Larry Worthballer. I'm not from here. I actually I was born. My dad worked for the airline. I was born overseas, and we ended up in Kansas City, and that's where I went to grade school and high school, and I went to Park Hill. And the only connection I had with St. Joe is he used to come up here and play football, and I wrestled up here in Savannah, and so I'd go back and I never really found my way around the city. Then when my daughter grew up, she was playing tennis, and we ended up down here. And I remember coming into town and getting all turned around, and tennis courts were in noise, and so never dreamed I was going to end up back here. But well, I kind of skipped the story a little bit. I went to Park Hill and went to school at University of Missouri. I got an ag-econ science degree. I went to work for the federal government as a meat grader initially. I was in Chicago and in Green Bay, Fort Dodge, Iowa, and they shut down the IBD plant. I switched to another agency called Packers and Stockyards, and then I became a regulator that covered the livestock markets and livestock dealers, the Packers again. I was working out of Kansas City. Thought I was going to get to retire in Kansas City, and that's where I was from. And going to the federal government, you can get back to where you started. And I got back within 9 years, which is pretty good. But I ended up getting transferred again. They shut down my office, and I ended up doing all of Nebraska. So I was up in Nebraska for a year. Then I transferred to another group to get to St. Joe and get closer to Kansas City. But I guess the point is, when I was working in Kansas City, I was working out of a livestock exchange building, and I come up here and did audits on the livestock dealers at the stockyards and the packing houses. And there's a bunch of packing houses all up down Packer Road, and they're all gone. There's one packing house replaced them, and there's another one that came across that's further processing now. But the economy's changed from my viewpoint, because I've got a different viewpoint than everybody else here. But you had a lot of jobs, and the jobs that were in the livestock industry at that time, we're just talking a few years ago, were a little bit higher level jobs than they are right now. Right now, I think they're keeping up as best they can, trying, but they're not drawing the same kind of people that were here when I was there, when I used to come up here. And I mean, I can just tell by because I did audits of Triumph too, because when I was stationed here, I was doing my job here when I switched to the group I was with, was doing audits with the packers based on what prices they had on livestock, because there's no price discovery anymore to speak of on livestock. I mean, you've got auction markets, but what packers pay for livestock is based on what they formulate the price at, and they had to report to the government how they did that. And my job was to make sure that all these packers were doing it the same way. And so I could, you know, the industry has changed so much, but that's one thing that, from my viewpoint, they've lost here. And then since then, I retired when I was 56, and that was in 2005, and I do volunteer work. I mean, unfortunately, with my pension, which pensions for people are gone now, for the most part, even the federal government, if you're going to have a pension of any sort, you've got to self-direct it. So I'm able to do a lot of volunteer work. By volunteer work, I switched to gardening. So I basically teach kids how to garden, and I do a garden at BCA, which is the Buchanan Academy. I've been doing it for about 10 years now, and believe it or not, I see the same families, the repeaters. And basically, you know, you get, and not only that, their parents and their parents' parents, and I find that kids being raised by grandparents now instead of parents. They're skipping generations too. And so you've got a real big problem in St. Joe with you know, raising kids. And the expectation, when I was raised, my sisters were raised, in our cases, it was expected we were going to go to college. It wasn't even, you know, it was just kind of built in. And the difference is, I mean, I think, you know, trade schools are great. I mean, they do work, but the thing with the higher education, you can get into a job that you can actually do something when you get out. And where, you know, I'm able to do what I'm doing and not making any money. And that's only possible because I'm getting my pension. And so that's going to be leaving soon too, because if people don't save enough money, they're not going to be able to do what I do. And the other problem is healthcare. People can't retire now because of healthcare. Well, the federal government, you're able to carry your healthcare over. So, whereas in most places where you retire, you lose your healthcare. And so that's another issue that seems to cause a lot of issues. And in our town, I mean, it almost seems like in St. Joe, people have learned, you know, we learn how to work around what our situations are. People in poverty have learned how to work around the situation. I mean, they have an expected income from the government, and they work side jobs that they don't report, and they can make do. And as long as people are able to make do, and they're satisfied with their situation, they're not going to change. So the change has got to come by, you know, making people, you know, want to change their situation. But I mean, it's almost as though we've got a group of people, you know, a lot of people in St. Joe that are just satisfied being the way they are. And how do you change that? You know, that's one of the things you can look at.
Yeah. So, education.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Milton Moore, retired teacher. I am very proud of this group. I've heard Hilliard Vocational School positively mentioned a number of times. I taught there 27 and a half years. And at one time, Hilliard's had a welding program running from 10 o'clock at night till sometime in the morning. I was not as happy that you got rid of adults in high school classes because they need help too, and sometimes they can motivate the students better than I can motivate the students. I started out at Pickett School when Pickett School was its own school district. My mother was the first board member that I know of that was a woman on Pickett School's board. I graduated from Central because Pickett School burnt. And we went to South End for a couple of years while they were building the building you kind of see now and got bigger. I taught computer-aided drafting. I started out with board drawing, and we went to computer drawing, and a number of architects in St. Joe and the area were in my class at night because they wanted to see what computer-aided drafting was like. I had a CAD lab before Missouri Western did, and then Missouri Western didn't want me teaching once they got their own lab and whatever. Then later on, yeah, I taught some night classes there, but my curriculum was different than the others, and I would have their instructors sometimes come to my class and ask me questions on how to do something, because I went to school to learn the software so that I could teach it. And I was told that all you need is the right textbook, and you know, the students will learn. Well, in computer-aided drafting, in drafting in general, you deal with a set of plans as an output. And if you don't teach them how to get that output, they're not going to do you any good, you know. So they had to plot the scale, and they had to do different things to make me happy and to get their grade. So I taught at Hilliard's for 27 and a half years. I started teaching in Smithville, and then the Army was going to get me, and my wife was pregnant. So I joined the National Guard, so I was part of the Kansas National Guard. I got out of basic training. My daughter was born on December 31st, and then I was required to report to Fort Sill, and I was home one weekend, and my mother asked if you were going to teach in St. Joe, what would you like to do? And I said, teach at Hilliard Vocational School, because I was in the first class of drafting and design back then. And I got out of Fort Sill on a Friday, and I went to deal with paperwork on the Monday morning at Hilliard's and started teaching, because the teacher that I had in high school had an administrative job if they could find somebody to take his place. So it just worked out. After I retired, I taught at Altec, or I worked at Altec for a while, and they downsized twice, and they got me. And they kept the younger guys, and yeah, I was older and wasn't going to be a lifelong employee. They didn't say that, but you know, they didn't have to. You know, you just look for a different job. I applied for a job at Northeast Kansas Technical College in Atchison, and they hired somebody else. And then in January, I got a phone call. They needed a computer-aided drafting teacher, because the teacher they hired instead of me was cheaper, but he decided to do some calendars that were not appropriate. So he got fired. So I was there 3.5 years, and the president of the college, nobody that got tenure got a contract. So I was out of a job. A friend of my wife's, she worked in Kansas City with my wife. Their drafting teacher was leaving, so she hired me, and I was in Kansas City at Van Horn, which became part of Independent School District, and I went to East High School and I was teaching Project Lead the Way. And it's like most vocational schools there, counselors or whatever guide students in directions. And if you're keeping your regular teachers' classes full, optional courses are not a priority. So my numbers went down, and after 5 years, I retired again. So that's kind of my long story. I grew up on 40th Street. The land at Missouri Western, the majority of it was the dairy farm for the state hospital. And yeah, I put up hay on some of the property that is now part of Missouri Western. And yeah, I farm a little bit.
I think there's an interesting thread I'm hearing, particularly around Hilliard's Technical School. And Bill mentioned that we have engaged MCC to run the adult program because the school district was trying to run the adult program. Well, leadership in public schools are not prepared to run an adult program. That's actually, they take money.
And Hilliard's making you money.
Yeah. So that's one step we've taken. The other thing we're looking at right now is a program where we would have as many as between 300 and 600 high school students in the Hilliard building during the day, taking the various classes that are offered out there. And rather than have them go back to their building for the required courses, have teachers come there for the required courses. So in other words, we'd be trying to house 300 or 400 high school students in the Hilliard building during the day so they can focus on the things that are offered at Hilliard's. So that's a possible change that we're looking at.
That's a possibility. One of the downfalls of that tends to be you can't be in sports and some of the things that have after school activities.
Yeah. they would not be there every day and just be certain.
Yeah.
Certain
things, just saying.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things we're.
Yeah.
But Hilliard is very, very high on our list because, like Bill said, there's several hundred, 600 or 700 jobs available right now that cannot be filled because we do not have the skills in St. Joseph to fill the jobs.
Just one more thing, my grandson, one of my grandsons, went to Hilliard's in ag all 4 years. Went back as an adult and was in a half-day machine shop and half-a-day welding. Well, he was like a lot of other students that go, needed more activity and less book work and whatever. So about a fourth of the way through, he switched to welding only because machine shop had too much book work to get started. He was ready to get on the machinery and do things. And anyway, he now works for the county and does a lot of the repair work of stuff on days that you can't work, and he runs a New Holland tractor with 15-foot mower behind it and just enjoys it.
I think Larry's got a good point about this. The school district is a very important component in the perception of St. Joseph, why people stay and leave, and the education component of this whole thing that I spoke about initially is one of the most vital components in retention of our people here. But if you look at employment today, we're at under 4% employment today, unemployment, excuse me, and if you take out the people that can't and don't want to work, I mean, you're almost at full employment. So all of these employers are having a very difficult time finding people to work. And it's almost like a catch-22. We need people to work, but we don't have anybody in our community. well, why don't we have more people in our community to choose from? Lack of education, poverty, all that stuff goes hand in hand. And I've always thought that we need a central St. Joseph focus. And in the past, we've had groups of people, either business people, civic people, that have promoted the South End, the East End, downtown. My God, we spent 40, 50, I don't know how many millions of dollars downtown trying to get people to go back downtown for whatever reason, and we didn't have any people to go back downtown. So instead of having a central focus of how we all can move St. Joseph forward together, we've had these fractionalized groups that have promoted different things. And I think that is a real hard thing to generate, and it's a hard thing to make happen. Easy to talk about, hard to do. You know, I'm of the opinion that we need a centralized form of government, Mr. Mayor. I think that the city and the county should be combined. I think there's a lot of duplicity there that we don't need. I think we need people.
Duplication as well as duplicity.
Yeah. Like Larry, I mean, don't know Larry well, but I know I've followed his business career and what he's done, and then to go back on the school board at a time when everybody's got their arrows out, throwing them at the school district. It's a tough thing to do, and obviously that shows his caring and his concern about the community and what he wants to, a legacy that he wants to leave. And I have grandchildren, 8 grandchildren that are here that I want to have a legacy for, and I want them to see, not that they can just go into our business and succeed. They can, obviously, but operating a business in St. Joe is very, very difficult compared to other communities. And there's just this conversation has been very good to hear about everybody else's path in life, but everybody's vision was one that they cared about the community. They're here because they care about the community. And I think the central focus should be that we want St. Joseph to move forward. We want St. Joseph to succeed. And we want St. Joseph to be better for the people that live here and to be able to attract people with a better school district, world-class hospital, all the pluses that we have. And that's it.
Let me grab a hold of this real quick. We've been here for about 50 minutes. I had talked about an hour's time. I know that the students have about 3 questions they'd like to get into, and I have a light lunch over here. So what do you think about maybe just taking a quick 5-minute break, grab something to eat, use the facilities if you need to, and if you can continue to stay, we'd love to have you.
Do you think there's coffee anywhere?
I will run upstairs and
I'll
research.
go up there.
Maybe, I feel like maybe in this other side.
There's.
I'm gonna call them.
But I'm not super familiar. And then, so 5 minutes, grab your lunch. It can be a eat. So please eat during the lunch hour.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wander up there.
Oh, you're fine.
And you do some of these wells, the street stoplights and red lights. Once upon a time, let me tell you a story. You know who my dad is? Okay, so he's not here to defend himself now, so I can tell every story I want to tell on him. He won't be on me. I may have heartburn tonight on the bed. I remember, and I have no idea what brought it up. Dad was very forthright in his comments about being And at the time, you were in charge
That's
of
gonna be the
putting some stoplights in.
I know.
Where he didn't feel it was necessary at all. So I believe he even told you about it. On multiple occasions, maybe.
I know, but you
came home that night.
But I had to start with a whole
And
belly,
was just
you know,
livid
it's hard to learn.
about the money the city was wasting. Larry Cook was organizing this and was no money to make it happen. And how stupid of an idea he had anybody.
Somebody said at some point, it's going to basically go into bankruptcy. And then somebody's going to get it at a cheap price. And they might make
I'm
it.
listening to kids jabber all the
Matter, you
time.
don't have opportunities,
Because they don't
opportunities
have.
don't matter, you don't have.
Right.
You have to have all three.
See, that makes some sense.
Which one are the other two?
Of course, I'm always up to thinking that I think they take all lights out would be better served.
That's a good one, I just made that up, but it's true. Is the driver. But here's the thing. Everything doesn't matter, if you don't have an opportunity. An opportunity doesn't matter.
Unless you want a big push.
His house. Ended up, when he passed away.
I know.
And that's what
Yes, and I
remember their name very clearly. Very clearly.
I agree with that to an extent, like, they've gotten complacent, because they're like, this sucks, my life sucks. I'm gonna go ahead and
You're not gonna eat
right
anything?
now.
Yeah. Oh, good for you. What's the meat on your skinny bones?
Well,
Where are they today? You say up
My
at
text
school?
made sense though, didn't it?
I don't think I can eat anything.
Well, Tony Lindemeyer.
You've had a lot of opportunities to
Take a look.
do a lot of things.
yeah, we need to get
No,
the
it used to
counselors.
be a coffee bar
Yeah.
or something.
I got
Well, librarians
a
probably.
lot of people
I'm gonna go.
to see Hilliard's back when we were on Ninth Street.
Go back to
Because we
the
started having
I probably know.
at Hilliard, so they knew the school existed.
See, that's where, I took a course down there, Bob
No, I
Powell.
haven't been. Boy,
Yeah.
she's.
Remember
she's
Bob
one I need to
Pauling?
know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He taught an electrical course
So-
down there, and I took electrical course down there.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was on my paper route.
They do a community needs assessment.
That's how far I go
And
back.
so,
I go back way too far.
everybody does one.
Remember
Everybody
Green?
does, and, you know.
Teacher
And
printing?
They line up.
They do.
Yeah.
If it hadn't have been for Hilliard's having a printing course there, I would have flunked
It's,
out of high
it's
school.
just that thing's coming out of campus and the community.
Yeah.
That, I got straight A in that because I took a work permit, went to work in the print shop 3 hours every day and got straight A for that for 3 hours on my grade
About
paper.
to lose their decision.
Well, I had some students that would flunk at their high school or cause problems, and if I could keep them in school, you know.
Whatever you guys think.
Don't get on the food.
I tried to get on the board out there and, Pete Manville stopped that. He wanted to keep the printing involved in his line as opposed to out into the press line. And I wanted pressmen to come out of the school, and he wanted photographers to come out of it.
What do you hear from your brother? Anything? Jimmy?
Yeah, he was in town here for his
Was he?
60th reunion or something. He towed his 57 Chevy all the way from Oregon.
He's a piece of work.
Yeah.
Very unique, Matt.
Jimmy?
Probably your father, would you guess?
Would he have graduated in '63?
Let me see. Let me think about this. Yeah, probably so. But yeah.
He had a Plymouth Cranbrook
Yeah. He went
in
to,
'53
he went
or
to
in
Central.
'63.
He went to Central.
He took it down to the drag strip in Kansas City.
That would not have been him. No, wait a minute. My sister dated somebody who went down to drag strip, but no, my brother didn't do any dragging.
Okay.
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 I can't imagine me
He was in my ROTC class too.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Who was in drag? Who are you talking about? Was
that
that at the library?
Conversation changed in a hurry, didn't it?
I was at the library. I saw that in the paper.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm doing fine, buddy. Good. You enjoying retirement?
You bet. Best job I've ever had.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. I wish I'd done it sooner.
Oh,
We're
man. I
working
just
7
grabbed a
days
quick
a
little
week,
sandwich here.
12 hours a day.
Ooh, and a carrot.
Got his student loan paid off in 6 months.
6 months. Wow.
Well, how are the Tigers going to do Saturday? That's going to be a tall task. Have you got a quarterback that wants to play, or do we know?
Nope.
Questions?
I don't know.
I gotta
Probably
remember
won't watch that game.
You know, up till I played Andy, I had some high on.
Get a fork, or do you want one?
They
were kind of hidden on the box back there.
Yeah, that was a big loss, but I don't think it was that big loss.
It was just, he was more, not even just the player aspect, it was kind of part of the team.
I'm afraid if they may not win another game, they're playing right now. That kick in the Kentucky.
Going to endless shrimp lunch with my husband.
I don't believe Kentucky's that good.
Where?
Andy's
I
that
real
one.
close there. Endless
Endless
shrimp.
shrimp.
Endless shrimp.
So you guys are all business
I know.
majors? Yeah.
All the
Wow.
time.
Marketing, go.
Milton. I will have you know, I was the welder of the year in 1999 in my high school. Thank you. I just want to make sure you knew that.
I took that course, it's a night course, that was a great course.
I did too.
Guy from down at
I did too.
Hausman, what was his name, just died here a little while back. Took the
Ed?
course. Who?
Ed maybe? Or
Yes,
was it Ed?
I think so. There was two of them.
Ed and Melvin.
Yeah,
Who's his son?
Wow.
good course.
All the whole bunch.
Eldon Carriger was one of the teachers when I took welding at night.
Is he related to Will Carricker? Wonder if
I think it's a
that's his
different
dad.
name, different last name.
All right, if we wanna get back started again.
Sure.
Continue meeting while we go.
Well, that is-
Just for time,
I
so
can see
because
that.
we have a whole other question. If you don't have a big opinion on, or a good answer for one, if you just wanna pass on to the next person just to save a little time, that's totally fine. If not, if you guys are willing to stay, we are, so.
And we can just open up for discussion too, so we can just bounce back and forth now, obviously, we're just kind of unstructured.
So we're gonna say, what makes Buchanan County a good place to do business? And just kind of look at a SWOT analysis, so what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, and then opportunities that could be, and then threats that face the businesses.
Yeah, and most important is the business aspect of it.
It's easy. Strengths, low taxes. Weaknesses, low taxes.
Oh, good job, Larry.
It is easy, you're right.
The people here are unwilling or don't understand the value in investing in their community. And of course, I speak for the school district. Our taxes in St. Joe, our school taxes are lower than Cameron, King City, Avenue City, Union Star, North Andrew.
Property taxes as well,
Pretty low.
very low.
Just got my bill. Just got my bill
Mm-hmm.
for the property tax.
I mean, we all think they're high
I don't think
until we talk to people in other communities, and they're very low.
one of our recruiting efforts is bringing people from California who are leaving in enormous numbers for various reasons. I think you can guess maybe some of them. And people from either coast that come here to live are amazed at how low the taxes are. And also the real estate is, some of the houses they can buy here that are far bigger than what they had on either coast. Absolutely selling point.
We look at our taxes as an expense rather than an investment. What we put in taxes, really, investment pays for services that we get in the community.
But you know, you say that, Larry, and the district did pass the last levy, the one before that missed, but the last one passed, and we just passed last, the other day, the CIP tax for the county, the 4% sales tax. So I mean, people do invest in the community in spite of all the other variables. So, and I don't want to get too defensive. I would argue some of these points. Since I'm the mayor, I'm not supposed to, be Debbie Downer on these community items. I think, there's a lot of positive stuff. If strength of the community, I still say the strength of our community is the people. We have some amazing people here who do very good work.
Well, I think you had kind of mentioned like our location and how close we are to Kansas City, and I think we could leverage that with probably a strength and an opportunity. The weaknesses we kind of already mentioned. I think a lot of our people, we have a lot of employers that are willing to pay well, but what we see at CAP is that there's a disconnect between their skill set and being able to get the skill set, being able to go to Hilliard, you know, even though like a class at Hilliard, I think you can go to for like $350, $400, some of the classes. Being able to get there, being able to, you know, regularly attend, transportation is a big issue for people. So I think there's opportunities there. It's just making the connection between people getting the skills and those types of things.
So would you say, we talked about this before we came here, there's a concept that's known as brain drain that you kind of discussed, and you think it's kind of a valuable thing with the community from what we've heard, but it's basically where educated people are leaving because there aren't enough jobs that suit what they want, or, I mean, I really want your guys' kind of, you know, ideals and, you know, aspirations on that, because we don't know. We just heard the concept, we know what it is, but I kind of want to know from the business standpoint, from all your standpoints, what is that true, or like what kind of aspects?
I think the chamber has done some work around this on like the number of jobs that are available for like bachelor's degree individuals, and I think there's not as many as like entry level type jobs. Am I right? I feel like they did that maybe in like their last survey 2 years ago, maybe.
The evidence they gathered that surprised the hell out of me was that so many, you know, the people that are working in St. Joseph and living in Parkville or Plant City or, you know, north of the river. And if all the people, I can't believe this number, but did you hear this, Tom? If all the people who are working here but living south of here lived here, our population would be about another 20,000. That's what the chamber says.
Yeah. If you look at the companies that have located here, big companies, Boehringer, for example, and this is no trying to be disrespectful to any one group, but there was a story some years ago of a Chicago company that came to St. Joseph to process sausage. They make sausages. And they came to St. Joseph. All of the executives loved it. They said it's great, proximity to Kansas City, plus airport transportation, all the stuff that we need. And so they said, we'll bring our wives. This is a small company. They brought their wives. Wives came in, toured around St. Joseph, said, we're not living here. We want to live in Kansas City, we want to live in Wichita, we want to live wherever. And they were trying to find someplace in the Midwest. So consequently, the board went back to Chicago and they didn't locate this additional plant here. It went someplace else. Lots of different factors enter into those decisions, but I agree with Larry, the mayor. We've got a great workforce here, a quality workforce. If you talk to industrial-based clients that we have, their production levels, their work ethic, all that stuff is high on the charts. And it's much better to attract people here. That's one of the attractions here. And I agree with Larry on the low taxes. It's a positive, it's a negative. But the people here, we just had a meeting at our company, and we've got 30 great folks that work for us. I got people that have worked for us for 35 years. And you don't retain those kind of people by not treating them properly. And I think that's part of the mentality, is you reward your folks, you know, you compensate them fairly, you pat them on the back when they do a good job. It's an important part of being in business. I love living in St. Joseph. It's been my home. I've grown up here. I've lived on the same piece of property since 1970, east of town. You know, I'm obviously going to stay here. Again, I think it's the positives are the folks that are here, and the logistics of where we are and all the other stuff enter into that as well. Where we are geographically.
Right. Larry, do you think we're sending kids out of high school with a good work ethic? I'm looking at weaknesses up there.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that. Certainly, schools are having their problems. We're fighting bullying at school right now. Of course, I'm wondering about the definition of bullying, because some of the things that I saw when I was in high school, I can remember that far back, would probably be in terms of bullying right now. My solution to bullying, if you have a kid in school that's a bully, you send his parents to jail. But that didn't seem to work.
Really high we already have really high
I think that's one of the major weaknesses we have today, is that kids leaving high school, entering the workforce, do not have a work ethic.
Yeah, and we see that in attendance, high school attendance. You know, the kids just, our attendance rate is very low. We're working on it very hard. What's sad is, statistically, some high school kids in the last 4 or 5 years that have had the highest attendance in grade school and freshmen are now going to school in Plant City or North Kansas City or somewhere south of here. I know a few families that moved as soon as their kids reach high school age. They move south of here and still work in St. Joe.
That's the point, and to be honest, so I'm 34, most of my friends are around my age, so we have young kids. And I would say the plan for most of the people who have kids my age is that we're gonna keep them in school till 6th grade. Maybe we'll send them to Bodie, but by the time we get to junior high, we're gonna move.
Yeah.
And whether that's Platte City or Cameron or Savannah, it's always, you know, because they're gonna continue working here, but they're just gonna try, you know, to move outward.
Well, I think that starts at home with the children. And if they don't have direction, they don't have examples, they're going to fail. And my brother and I had wonderful examples. The entire Ferguson family had wonderful examples of how to work, the rewards of work. I remember my father talking about little risk, little reward. Big risk, big reward. Remember that, boys.
Yeah.
And
try it.
And he always used to say, business is about 20% hard work and about 80% luck. Being in the right place at the right time and being able to seize an opportunity and being able to dream big and make your dreams a reality. And it's, for me, I'm second generation, my sons are third. I was fearful, and I got a great education in St. Louis. I was always fearful of having my hands on the wheel of the bus and driving it into the ditch. I thought of that every day, all day. I was never going to be the one that was going to disrupt our company, and I was always going to do things to advance and to diversify into other areas and to not, you know, be a victim of the buggy whip days. But I think that all starts at the home. And I think being an ag-based community like we are, a lot of folks I've got that work for us are kids that come from a farm, or they had some association with a farm. And, you know, right or wrong, when you're on a farm, you live on a farm, or you associate with a farm, you know how to work. And you know the benefits of work. And it's important. Now, my father grew up just on the old West Savannah Road on a farm, him and 4 brothers, during the Depression, when it was really tough. And most of us in this room, and I'm 71, have never really experienced tough times, really, really tough times like they had the Depression. We've all had our challenges, of course, but it's as we do in business and life, that's kind of the way it goes. But St. Joseph, great community, and I think the people are its largest asset.
You talk about how it starts at home. Absolutely agree with that. I think what we're seeing, our agency works with a lot of low-income families, so mostly low-income parents. So what we're seeing is that those parents are having to work jobs where they're not at home as much, or if they are at home, you know, if it's a second or third shift. I mean, what you've seen economically with St. Joe is some of those good jobs have gone down. Some of those, jobs where you can go in, you can start making $15, $20+ an hour have gone away. But we do have a lot of fast food places. Go to the Belt, you can find almost anything except for an Outback Steakhouse, which I'm really sad about. So they're working some of those different jobs. So they're not making as much anymore. So they're not home as much anymore. So they're not being a positive influence on their kids in the way that they were back when they were working those different jobs, and where mom could stay home with the kids. So now mom and dad are both having to go work at jobs that they're not making as much. It's difficult for them to get there. The buses don't run past 7 o'clock. They don't run on Sundays and they don't run on holidays. But we're gonna work on that. So the accessibility, to those good paying jobs and the opportunity to get those good paying jobs. So unfortunately, you said, like, why were you talking about moving when they're getting junior high? Well, because that's when your parents aren't there and you start doing silly things that could affect my kids, it starts becoming more of a concern. They're staying at home, they're trying drugs, they're doing illicit activity, they're, doing all this other things.
I don't know. It's very difficult. Our youngest daughter taught at Pershing, and oldest daughter's a speech pathologist at SCAPE. And during their parent-teacher conferences at night, back to school, they would have, and we have another daughter on at Limerick, and they'll have nobody attend.
Yeah.
No parents attend. None.
Limerick's hard, man. That is rough.
And it's just incredible to think that the parents, one may be working, both may be working, but you think that one could get there, but one of my daughters-in-law showed me a paper, a homework paper that she sent home, and it came back unfinished, handwritten note by the parent: do this on your time, not my time. And I read that and I was stunned about the mentality of putting pencil to paper and that thought as a parent to send back to a teacher. And
Don't you think the big thing is there's no support at home? In
that's
so many.
exactly
And
where I was
I think
going
that,
with that.
It didn't used to be that way.
Yeah, I had my daughter goes to Field, which Field is like the yuppie school, and really good school, but it's like the richest school district. But then I had foster kids that went to Lindbergh, and when I was their foster parent, I was like, hey, I would like to meet with you about this issue, and they were like, what? You want to come in and talk to us? Like, we don't even have like a process for this. We don't even know how we would do it. But with those parents, like I said, a lot of the times they're working at Burger King. It takes, I think that cab service one way right now is $8. If they're making $7.25 or $7.59 minimum wage, that's 1 hour. And now another time, another hour of wage to get back. And so by the time they get home, especially if they don't have safe and affordable housing, so they're living with aunt, uncle, grandma, whoever, or grandma and grandpa taking care of them, it's hard for me to go through my kids' backpack. We just had a diorama was due last night. So, I think a lot of those families, they're in such day-to-day crisis of trying to get their kids fed and clothed, and health, preventative health doesn't even happen because of all those other crises that are just day-to-day. So being engaged with their education doesn't really happen.
So would you say, after hearing all this, it's almost like each of you being in different fields, it's almost like a cycle that goes on. Say the homework going home, the parent writing that, sending it back could be poverty. Then the poverty goes to the child not wanting to go to school. Not wanting to go to school goes back around.
I think
somebody down here said it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The cycle keeps going until we break the cycle. Until you break the cycle somehow. And these folks here have a monumental task in doing something with our education system, because that's got such a key component to all of this discussion. And without, my take on this is dollars and cents, and you take your heart out of it, and you look at the school district, and comparable school district in, I'm gonna get the name wrong, Larry, Liberty, I believe, in Kansas City, had the same number of students that St. Joseph had at any given time. And they had 17 facilities, buildings to take care of. St. Joseph has 35, or thereabouts. That was the percentage. And so you've got too many facilities with too few students with too few dollars. And from a dollars and cents standpoint, they need to do exactly what we need to do for the community. And I don't think, my personal opinion, I read an article in the news press a few weeks ago, maybe a few days ago, that I believe Alonzo Weston wrote. I thought it was a spot on, really good article about his opinion about the high schools. Yes, we went to high school, yes, we went to Lafayette, we went to Benton, we went to Central, but we don't identify ourselves now, other than coming across somebody, oh yeah, we went to Central, but you don't really identify with that school. Yes, you have that's where you grew up, that's where your heart is, that's where your friends were, but you don't look now in our daily lives, you don't look at somebody from Lafayette or Benton any different than you would from somebody that's from Columbia or St. Louis. And so the definition of who you are shouldn't be dictated by what high school you went to at 71 years old.
Not defined by high school.
And who, the idea about the education level at Lafayette, Central, and Benton, it used to be, and I understand about the curriculum that Larry's talking about, the increased curriculum at Central versus the other schools, but if you go to school with the idea that mom and dad have been at home and they've stressed the importance of education, you can get a good education at Lafayette, Central, and Benton. And you can go on to higher education, if you have that motivation and that support at home. That's what that's all about.
What we're doing right now, we're raising the next generation of parents in our schools right now. We have to make sure we do it right.
I think, so you were kind of asking, so one of the things that's been interesting about this conversation is I don't know any of you. But when we have meetings, tell me if I'm wrong, when we have meetings at the leadership, like community stakeholder level, there's meetings for education. So like Hilliard could be having meetings in Missouri Western and school districts. So the education component kind of has their meetings. The business community has their meetings where you talk about workforce and you talk about lack of workforce and things like that. The nonprofit sector has their conversations about workforce development and how do we get really low income people to break the cycle of poverty. But I don't know about how many meetings we have where the three of us talk
about it. Because it seems like when we have the different areas talking right now, it kind of is all coming out of the table.
Yeah, and you're clarifying things that like, well, here's what we need from a business aspect, where I can say, well, this is why these people are having a problem meeting your expectations. And you're saying, well, education has this issue. Well, here's what you need and here's what I need. We don't have, I don't know.
Well, we do have. The marriage of the United Way and the Chamber of Commerce in the St. Joseph 2040 plan is, there are about 1,000 people that put that plan together from all these different constituencies in your neighborhood.
But it's not an ongoing.
Well, it is an ongoing thing. I mean, because the plan, the metrics have to be met at each, whatever juncture they're doing. So people, place, and prosperity are the three major heads. So yeah, there's the Community Alliance of St. Joseph is where the credibility resides, and that if you're not part of that, you need to be part of that.
So he gets defensive anytime you do that.
Well, of course I'm going to be defensive if you're wrong.
I'm not wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong. You're right. Bill's wrong.
They are talking, and if you're not at the table, you ought to be at the table.
Let me add what Bill's saying, because one of the things that we told the new superintendent was we want him and his top people to be involved in the activities in St. Joe. And I know Marley Williams is involved in several different groups. Dave Edgar, our finance business person, he's involved. Doug Van Zyl, our superintendent, is involved. So we're trying to get those people involved in all the groups that we can get them involved in. Because to me, their role as the top leadership of our school district is not to sit in a damn office and shuffle paper.
Yeah.
But
And I
to
will
get out in the
say-
community and be involved.
I will say the 2040 process did kind of start a lot of those conversations. Like I remember very vividly Pat Lilly interviewing a group of nonprofits, us, Catholic Charities, InterServe, the YW, about like why is it that these people are not getting the skills and getting the jobs? Like why are they not doing both? And so we talk a lot about that. And one of the big things we talked about again was transportation. And it was crazy to us as nonprofit leaders that the chamber and maybe the education portion didn't understand what a significant barrier to transportation is for low-income people. And so just that type of conversation, but even though the Community Alliance meets and those types of things meet, these types of conversations, very frank of like, what are we doing? What do you need? What do I need? That's not really the nature of those conversations. At least that's not what I found them to be, and I'm right on that. Because usually there's an agenda with a very high level topic, and there's people in blazers and collared shirts. No offense to it.
The base level of thinking about better strategies. So something I've seen back in St. Louis. So I went to a private school, and my college, everything has been an expectation since I was young. So it wasn't like graduating high school is a big deal, which I know like a lot of people it is. It was just like, all right, you're expected to do that. But I worked with people. I worked at a car wash, and I worked with people that go to lower end public schools like in the city, and a lot of them would do half the day school, and then the second half they would go and work. And one thing I think that would help work ethic, because they'd be actually working. And then secondly, that gives them some initiative to like make connections in like actual businesses, and it helps those businesses as well because they're getting some actual connections like to younger people. So then they're not working at the McDonald's or whatever; they're actually working.
Did they get like dual credit for their work experiences?
Yeah.
Do we do that, Larry?
That's just a suggestion. I mean, say what you think if that would work.
Yeah, I know used to years ago, but I don't think. Yeah, we had after school.
I know if it
program.
hadn't have been for Hilliard's giving me 3 credits that I got E's for, or A's, I would flunk out of high school.
Do they
That's
do
cool,
dual credit for Hilliard now? Just
We
so
have-
you go to Hilliard?
We have dual credit programs, but they're direct to their college, not to their work. But Marley is working on a program that I wish I knew more details to explain to you. But we are putting some students out into the workforce. We're working with the different companies around town to go out there. I don't think that there are enough students are able to be placed there. But I remember back when I was in high school, my wife got out of high school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go down and work at St. Francis Hotel. I had no idea what she was doing. But anyway. She worked in the hotel.
She was at the snack bar.
But there were those programs at the Dime Store, downtown retail center.
Well, that's common senior year.
Yeah,
to get out at noon.
That's right.
Yeah, to go to work someplace, yeah.
And those programs are not happening today, that you know of.
Not that I know of at that level, that many young people.
They're working on some, that I know. I haven't talked to the new director, so I don't know all the things that they're currently doing, but I think they should have been invited here today too. But I had a lot of trouble getting students from Benton to come to Hilliard's. A lot of years I'd have no students from Benton.
Why do you think that was?
Well,
Transportation.
Timing, for one thing. Another is they're going to another school. you know, away from their friends. Counseling, you know, one of the things that is not encouraged, a lot of people think if you go to Hilliard, you're not going to go to college. Well, I had a lot of students that went to Altech or whatever, and they couldn't be advanced until they had a college degree. You know, so I had.
That is a problem. Now you got my,
my
attention up there.
Yeah. The dual credit, when I was teaching at Missouri Western, every once in a while, I could have my former students that now needed college credit in a hurry, you know, do me a portfolio of X number of drawings, and I would grade and evaluate that, and yeah, they could get college credit. Some of them can get college credit at half price. Well, that's not free education anymore. You know, that's now we're filling everybody's pocket.
I think we went through a cycle where we tried to convince every kid in high school that they had to go to college. That was the wrong message. And we're reversing that now. Trade schools are very equally important. They have multiple paths they can go down. What really bothers me is a company that will not even accept an application unless they have a college degree. And a company that will not allow you to advance in the company unless you have a college degree. If we're going to require college degrees to fill out an application, then it should be paid for by the taxpayer just like public school is. There's nothing magic about K through 12. It used to be 1 through 6 was public education. Then it became 1 through 8. Then now it's K through 12. There's no reason why it can't be K through 16 if that's what the business people are going to require.
So what's the A plus?
Yeah.
At one time there was an A plus. I don't know.
That's still going on.
2 years of college.
Yep, 2 years at a community college before you transfer into it.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's being
That program is in high schools.
well used.
It could be utilized more because I've seen a lot of people that don't use it. I didn't use it, and I knew about it. I should have. It was free college. I didn't even use it. You know, so it could be pushed more. It could be the type of person, depending on what you want to do. There's a lot of different aspects.
Yeah.
And like you were saying about needing a college degree to apply for a job, I know a ton of people that don't even go to college, but they can critically think well enough to figure out anything that anyone that has college.
Right. You got an
Anything
HR.
I could.
Yeah, but you got an HR guy sitting there, well, no college degree.
No degree.
Yeah, we eliminated a stack, you know.
Yeah.
Now the stack's only this tall. And now that's manageable for me.
Well, right now, there's no stack, and they're looking for people.
As someone applying for internships right now, like, what I can tell you is just because I go to college, I mean, obviously people that are also applying for internships, they're all in college, probably, most of them. So really what my weakness was, I mean, I got like a short internship last year, but was the fact that I didn't have real like business experience. So that's kind of where I think the like after school thing or something where it's like working with local businesses, not just doing maybe the physical labor part, but maybe half your job's that, half your job is working, maybe just as an administrator or something simple that they can do, because you don't really need many skills to do that. It's just being taught the basics and then you can perform that. Just to give them experience to be able to not be stuck in that physical labor job, but to go to the next level of actually like, taking on the higher parts of the business.
Teach them to show up at work on time.
Right.
And I think that's again the disconnect between employers is that we hear a lot of our families who are working at Triumph or a handful of them that have at some point worked at Kawasaki, Kawasaki is a great job, but the place they pick them up, there's a bus that will drive them to Kawasaki because it's in Maryville, it's 45 minutes away. But the bus meets by No Place Bar. That's the name of it.
22nd Street.
Yeah, like down in the southish end. So they have to get up, go down there, go to Kawasaki. Then Kawasaki actually takes money, $50, out of their paycheck to pay for the bus, Where it's like, how much more money would you have if you offered that for free, and then you didn't have the turnover? Then you didn't have to waste your time. Yeah, and I think that's the same thing with, if you don't have, because we have that too, at CAP, we have, certain jobs that have certain credentialing requirements that we can't do anything about. But for what we found is being able to say, okay, but if you have the experience, if you don't have the credential, but you have equitable experience, so say that's 4 years or 5 years, we're gonna take you because you know how to do the job. So I think making that case is important. We have a lot of employers that came in and said, well, this is what you have to do. So then the community tried to match that and then, didn't match up.
You spoke earlier of transportation being a problem. Would you get on the public transportation today and go anyplace?
I mean, I would if I had to. It would not be fun.
Especially as a woman, I can't imagine anybody, let alone a woman, getting on our public transportation and going anywhere.
I don't think it's that bad.
I've been on them. I can tell you that I was scared on them.
I think the thing that, and I think people get used to that because they're like, I have to do it or I can't have an income. I think the question about like a living wage job, I think if you looked at if you had like the median, I guess the median income probably that, but some of these entry-level jobs have gone from, Mead and these other places to the impossible. It's McRibville and McDonald's right now, so it's exciting. But it takes an hour to get from downtown. If you're trying to go from downtown to the Belt area, which is where the only grocery stores really are, there's a couple. But that takes an hour, and that doesn't include if you have a kid that you need to drop off at school or an appointment you need to go to. It's going to take you all day to get around town, and we don't have that big of a town.
I rode the bus to and from work in early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, and never ever gave a thought. That's where I met some of the nicest gentlemen in my life on the bus, just talking to them. But I tell you, I would not get on a bus today.
In St. Joe?
Yes, sir.
It's all right. That's just
Try it. See what it's like. It's miserable on there. It is miserable on there. And do you think you would get some help from the driver to stop any commotion that was going on the bus? I don't think so.
Oh, you're on a school bus?
No.
Okay.
No, you guys don't have any drivers.
That too.
He changed drivers.
I just don't think the public transportation today is such that the average person would get on it. And if that's causing problems in us getting people to and from work, that's all I ever rode when I went to work. And I worked there for probably 6 or 8 years doing that. Every day. And that was a dime a trip then too. When I was a kid.
With the transfer.
Yeah, free transfer too.
Paper transfer ticket.
And imagine today, I forget what it was I was wanting to do the other day. I was gonna go get my car. I wanted to take my car up to be worked on, and I was gonna take the bus down to retrieve it. Rather than everybody was working and I couldn't get anybody to help me take it down there, take me down there to pick it up, I thought I'll take the bus. And then I got to thinking of what it was gonna take. I would have had to pack a lunch in order to get down there in the time. Just downtown.
You might as well just wait.
Yeah, I did.
We are gonna restudy the transit routes. We have spent millions of dollars on new buses. And we have 10 more coming. The whole fleet's gonna be replaced, brand new buses. And so this whole idea of not having buses so people go to church on Sunday, or the routes don't make sense, or you have to be on it for hours to get somewhere. I mean, and the transit department it's probably the wealthiest department in the city. So, I mean, we ought to be able to fix this problem. But I was surprised when Whitney told me, the biggest obstacle, I thought, well, training, education, whatever. And it's transportation is a huge obstacle for people to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Most of us take transportation for granted.
Yeah, just get in the car and go.
I get my car and go.
Yeah.
And fill it up with gas and don't think about it. I mean, it's something we don't think about because it doesn't touch us. York City or Washington DC. It's a fact of life.
Right,
You
right.
get
The
down,
subway
you get-
there, it's
you get on the
6
subway,
minutes.
you get on the subway, you use it. And it's cheap, efficient transportation, and you see people down there in all kinds of collared and no collared shirts, so to speak. But at any rate, it's I think it's our perception, and we don't realize that there are folks that need and depend on that transportation. I think looking at, like the mayor said, looking at the efficiency and where the people want to go from point A to point B, the transit authority should look at. I'm sure he'll take care of it.
Oh, he served for me. After Whitney, raced over with me, I called him immediately.
So we got the transportation thing solved. Now we got to work on the school district.
Well, the biggest problem the school district has is transportation. We all read about that in the paper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The thing
Did
about
you guys
it-
find some bus drivers? I mean, what's
Yeah,
going on?
see, and some of us went to, I don't know when you went to high school, Central, but there was one parking lot on the south side of Central High School. The teachers and students parked there. Not a
back
problem.
then,
Now we have a larger footprint for parking than we do for building at Central High School, Lafayette High School, Benton High
Because we
School.
walk to school.
Yeah, we walk to school.
I lived at 14th and Olive, and I went to school at Central, and my folks, they work. My dad worked. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but she didn't go out to the garage and get in the car and take me to school.
No, you walk to school.
You walked to school.
Yeah.
I walked down Olive Street to the railroad tracks, walked out the railroad tracks until I got to Central and went to school.
Yeah.
And that happened all over the community. And now, of course, it's
And that's what's crazy, like, so I'm only 34, but I remember when I was in school, it was a town probably the size of Cameron, and we would walk across town, and that was before there was like a highway, the highway went through town. My parents were like, make sure when you cross, you don't get a semi. But now I have my own kids, and the thought, we live probably 5 blocks from her school, she's in 2nd grade, like, the thought of letting her walk to school is like, what?
So what can we do to change that?
But
That's what you're here for.
I think social
that's
media
a cultural
too.
thing now.
Yeah, yeah.
That these young men have
Like, she's gonna get
no
abducted.
earthly idea about how we
Yeah.
grew up and what it was like then. The whole thing changed. I mean, we had a 50th.
You don't look right.
I like it.
Hey, you need to do my performance evaluation.